But man, what a rewarding career to be able to come to work and do something that is fulfilling, both for the local economy, but also for me personally. I like to go to work and have a good time and be very positive, and this industry can present some very positive outcomes.
You guys, I have been working on something for the last 6 months that has been such a giant project, but I'm so proud of it. I'm excited to announce that I've just released my book. It's called Touch Points, and it's the Destination Marketer's Guide to Brand Evaluation and Enhancement. And it is a comprehensive guide for destinations to look at their brand, evaluate what you've done, and make a very clear and detailed plan of action of how to fix it. And look, I'm biased, right? Because I wrote it, but I think it's so good. I think it's a great guide, and I'm really, really happy with how it turned out. And I wanted to tell you guys about it. It's available on Amazon. Search Touch Points by Adam Stoker, and you'll be able to get that book for your destination. And I think it's going to be, especially for anyone that is trying to look at their brand holistically, this is the book for you. So check it out. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Destination Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Stoker. I'm excited to be with you today. I always enjoy it when I have someone on that is from a destination that I personally have attended as a tourist. It gives me kind of a different perspective on being able to ask questions and probably have a little bit more in-depth understanding of the destination than I do when I'm kind of coming in blind. So really excited. I've got our friend Robb Wells from Beaufort, South Carolina with us today. And Robb, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So Robb, we're excited to chat all things Beaufort, South Carolina today. But before we get into that, we've got a couple of icebreaker questions that just kind of get you talking and get us comfortable with each other. So tell me, if you were to go anywhere in the world, your dream destination, where would it be?
That's a great question. So where I'm at in life right now, I want to go where I can prepare my own food in the way that the culture prepares their food now. So right now I'm a big barbecue guy. So I know it's anywhere in the world, but for whatever reason, I want to go to Texas and do Aaron Franklin's brisket. I want him to teach me how to do the brisket. Or I want to go to Memphis and have someone from Rendezvous help me prepare my own ribs. That's kind of what I'm looking for. I know that's probably not a popular answer, but you know what? That's my dream spot right now. I want to get into cooking it myself. I feel like you can only cook so many hamburgers or make your own ribs, and I feel like my ribs are pretty good. Adam, we'll have to have them next time you're in town.
Let's do it.
But I want to go to the destination, and I want to prepare it authentically the way they do it and their style. So if that's the open pit, let's go open pit. And if it's barbacoa and it's more of a Mexican style in Mexico, then let's do that with the beef cheeks and those things.
Robb, you're a man after my own heart. Food drives a lot of my decision making as well, and I love that your dream destination is tied to I want to go in and experience the food of a destination the way they do it. I think that's a unique answer. I like that one.
Well, you tell me. I mean, you can go and experience, a top 50 things to do wherever, and those are great. And most of my colleagues have great list of things to do in their areas. So I'll take their advice and go to it. But I'm going to lean towards like being a part of the culture that I'm at. And that looks different in Texas than it does here in South Carolina, surely in Tennessee or Kansas City or even California. And everybody has their own unique ways and styles for food. And it's what I want to be a part of.
Well, I remember when you and I talked, both of us like to smoke meat, right? And
That's
that's
right.
where you were talking about your ribs, and we could probably have an entire episode about smoking meat, but we'll probably keep it closer to tourism here for the sake of this podcast. But
I hear you.
I really I think that you and I have a lot of similarities there. So because we could spend the entire time talking about smoking meat and my Traeger and I can't remember your brand.
Green Mountain Grill. Green
Mountain Grill.
Yeah.
Yep. So one on each side of the country. That's kind of the leader there. But because I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, why don't you tell me, of all the places you've been, Rob, what's your favorite destination you've been to? And I know that's kind of an unfair question to hit you with because you're going to be leaving somebody out, but just what vacation stands out to you more than any other one you've been on?
So for me, it was the old cliche Disney World with my two young daughters who had never been into Disney World, and watching their eyes light up. See, that experience, that moment, are memories that I'll keep forever. Seeing their eyes light up and they saw these characters actually in life, and that was fun to be a part of. I've had my own individual trips and across the country and go to different locations and do it. But to experience that with them for the first time, that was a great experience and one I will never forget. We walked in, saw it, caught off guard. They're both blown away, mouths dropped open, and it's exactly what you were wanting to see as a parent with your kids, and they delivered. And that's kind of the guiding light for my career, to be honest with you. And everything we do here in Beaufort, we want to have that same model. But we use that same formula as part of what we do, and that is, we want the visitor experience to be greater than or equal to the visitor's expectation. And if they are expecting one thing and they receive an experience that exceeds that, then we are most likely going to have an ambassador for life about the great time that they had here in the Low Country of South Carolina.
Well, and Rob, the Disney example is like the ultimate example of the customer experience, right?
That's
Like I,
right.
I remember I've got three daughters, and we went to Disneyland, not Disney World, but the experience is very similar.
Mm-hmm.
And I will never forget, we're watching the parade. We waited for like an hour and a half so that we could have a great seat for the
Of
parade.
course.
And then Elsa comes by on her float, looks my daughter in the eye, and waves at her. And like that moment for me is etched in as one of like the pillars of my experiences in history, right?
That's
Is
right. I got you.
seeing my daughter when Elsa looked at her and waved at her, and the joy that just came over her eyes. It was just, yeah, I can really relate to why that's one of your favorite experiences.
And it's right, and it's why I led with it. I mean, here I can talk about any other destination experiences I've had, but that one's the one that sticks out and is paramount because it applies to something that is a little greater in meaning because it was my children, and being able to have those experiences with them has been paramount. I think that should be the case. And being in the travel industry, we get some great opportunities to go visit some places and kind of get the inside track on that. But that one is still one of those moments that, like I said, I won't forget it.
Yeah, that's great stuff. Well, let's let people get to know Robb Wells a little bit today. Tell us a little bit about you and your background, and kind of what led you to the tourism industry.
Yeah, that's so. I started out with selling CPAP machines, and I know that sounds like just an awesome job, and it was. But I was at a local trade show, and was approached by someone that said, "Hey, listen, we recognize you as being from the area. We'd love for you to come, take a look at a job posting that we had here with the community. It's a marketing position with the economic development, and the Economic Development Corp also ran the tourism division. But you would do marketing for special projects, and we have this brand new event center that's coming online. We want to bring somebody with some marketing prowess to come in and do that. And so there went through the process and was brought on. Now that was the that was the start of it. When I actually showed up the first day on the job, they told me, say, "Hey, Rob, you're no longer part of the economic development team. We are actually going to make you in charge of the tourism division." And that's where I started my career. My first day on the job was at a governor's conference in North Carolina, in Charlotte, North Carolina. I knew no one, not a soul. I was a fan favorite of all the ad reps. They seemed to want to get their hooks in me at some point. But at the end of the day, it was a great start for me. I've made a couple other destination stopovers, but man, what a rewarding career to be able to come to work and do something that is fulfilling, both for the local economy, but also for me personally. I like to go to work and have a good time and be very positive, and this industry can present some very positive outcomes. I love the fact that we get to assist people in not only inspiring their place to travel, but assisting when they get here and finding things to do and execute on that. And also, I love to see people when they come back and say, "Listen, my very favorite place is this. This is my favorite place to go shop." And they share those experiences with you as if you are a tourist yourself. And that's the rewarding part of the industry.
Great, great. And tell me a little bit just about you personally. I know you're a family guy. What does your family look like, Robb?
So we, wife and I, have two tweens, a 13-year-old and an 11-year-old, and I have a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old son that are recent additions to the family, and we're very excited about this new season of life. We are, but listen, we love to be in and on the water. We love to be outside, and the Low Country of South Carolina allows and affords us to do that almost a year round. It's a good opportunity to experience some different things in life that most people don't get to. I mean, I think my kids are unique, that they don't have to look in a school book to see dolphins swimming in the water. They actually can go to the dock and see the dolphins pop up and breach the water. It's kind of cool to recognize that.
Well, yeah, and I remember actually when I was out, so my wife and I took a trip to Savannah and Hilton Head,
Mm-hmm.
and as part of our trip, we decided to go out to Beaufort. We went to Hunting Island, to that lighthouse out there and the beach. I
It's
caught
amazing.
crabs on the beach, and I've never seen so many shells on a beach as I did at Hunting Island Beach. Uh, and we saw so many dolphins. And so yeah, your kids don't have to go very far to see
That's
that.
right.
What a really cool place to grow up.
Yeah, you mentioned the crabbing and stuff like that. I mean, what a rich experience that is, right? And to use chicken neck or whatever on a string and drop it down and feel the tug and pull it up and watch the kids' reaction when there's a blue crab sitting on the end of the bait. It's kind of, I mean, it's fun to participate. It's also fun to have that experience. And you know what? Visitors from afar, that's one of the experiences that they want to have in our market. They want to do something that's authentic. They want to do something that's part of what we do on a day in and day out basis. Maybe something that, let's say, my family takes for granted. Somebody from Kansas will look at it as one of their most memorable times, spending time in and along the coast. And that's a great opportunity here.
Great, great. Well, let's talk about Beaufort a little bit
Mm-hmm.
more.
That's one of my favorite topics, by the way. I don't know if you knew that.
Well, then you're in the right role, Robb. You're in
There
the
you
right
go.
role.
Yeah.
You guys are in a unique position because you have some major destinations around you, which probably causes you to have to work a little harder to be unique. And so tell me a little bit about the dynamic of Beaufort, where you sit around those other destinations, and some of the challenges and benefits that come along with that.
Yeah, so we are in a great part of the world, and in that we have great destinations that surround us. So most people are familiar with Charleston, South Carolina, Savannah, Georgia, which you referenced, Hilton Head Island. They all have great name recognition. They have great exposure and destinations. People come from all over to the area, and trying to get your hand up to get called on to inspire travel to the area is not always the easiest thing to do with when those are the most recognized. But at the same time, it does afford us an opportunity and a captive audience who's already looking at the area. We just have to be a little bit more strategic about how we introduce Beaufort and introduce it in a way that we're not going to fail in our overall equation of meeting the visitor's expectations. And so, in order to do that, we have found ways to present who we are in a very authentic way. And I think that word cannot hold more true to who we are as a destination, because what I found is through some of our research that we do, that was our first step. When I came to market, there wasn't a whole lot of research in the office, and if your budget is not the same size, as the larger destinations around you, you're never going to be able to outspend them, right?
Right.
And most people look at it like, hey, how can I spend my way into notoriety or brand awareness? And that is not going to happen for our destination. We were going to need a lot of lifting from folks who can tell our story for us in some unique ways. And so we became very dependent on letting travel writers or people who wrote tell stories as they're looking to generate content or new content. We became a place that would host them, let their creative juices flow, and tell their version of Beaufort through their lens to their audience. And what that has done for us over the last, 4 or 5 years has allowed us to be introduced to a whole network of people, whole new areas of people that we would have never, it would have taken us a while to buy our way into it. And that strategy has paid off as we try to, you know, stand out a little bit more in this crowded marketplace.
Well, you touched on a couple things there that I'd like to maybe go a little deeper on. And the first one is research. And I love one of the things that you said that really stands out to me is a lot of people want to, if they've got a smaller budget, they're like, okay, let's spend our way into notoriety. That just doesn't work. And so you said, okay, let's just be more, let's be smarter about how we spend our money and leverage research to know what the right places are. So tell me some of the research that you've done and some of the research tools that you use.
As far as research, we needed to be able to identify who our visitor was and who they are currently. And so we went about this in a couple of different ways. We went through our research panel there at the local university, has some great data research collected from special events that take place in their area to kind of give us a baseline of who those visitors are. We then began using through our ads that we were buying, strictly a lead generation type situation. In other words, we didn't place any ads that did not generate a unique lead coming in from us so that we could reach out to them and kind of identify what was inspiring their decision to look to our area? When did they visit? And those type questions, and get more well-rounded answers to some of the lingering questions we had. And what we found out was that people started falling into certain categories, and they were falling less around, like say, their age, and which would be a typical demographic, but they were falling more to these, what they like to do.
Okay.
And we found out that we were able to find visitors of different age ranges, different backgrounds, whether children were present in the home or not, that made no difference. They wanted to be in and on the water. They wanted to kayak. They wanted to fish. They wanted to be at the ocean. They wanted to visit the beaches, or they wanted to visit the rich heritage and culture of the Low Country. And we were able to speak to them in what made sense for them, and that allowed us to remove a lot of noise in the marketplace for us that may have been expensive. We'd have spent money in places that didn't necessarily were wise investments on our end, and so that has helped us crucially in being able to use the budget that we have and extend it, but also still reach the demographic and the people we're looking for that want to come to Beaufort.
Well, and the fact that you centered it around psychographics and interest information, there was a time when having that information is one thing, but how do you place a buy to target those people is completely different. But with the digital platforms that are available now and the targeting that's available, you can actually target by interest. And so the research that you guys did to find those interests becomes much more valuable than maybe it would have been 10 years ago when it was more difficult to target in that way.
That's right. And for us though, Adam, it's really, you have a lot of people who have great ideas, and I have an office full of folks who have great ideas and have a community full of folks with great ideas. Unfortunately, when it comes to great ideas, is that sometimes they don't actually work out, pan out, make sense. And it's okay to take those chances, but we want to make the best use of the funds, period. And for us, we wanted to be able to use the resources that were available to us and identify that. So you would assume that someone comes to the coastal part of South Carolina wants to be, access to the beach. Well, through our psychographics, as you referenced, they want to experience the beach, but they want to do it in different ways. They want to be in activity based.
Right.
So that helps, eliminate those who just want to go out there and sit on the beach, right? They actually want to go out and kayak, and we target those folks. And it's been very good. And at the same time, we were able to pair that with some great storytelling that was taking place through our PR campaigns and introducing other aspects to the area that people may not have known about Beaufort. And that is how we introduce new opportunities and pick up some new leads. And it's not scientific. There's some hits and misses there. But it has been a great strategy for us, and one that we feel like continues to draw benefit.
Yeah, and let's talk about PR, because one of the things I love that you talked about when we talked before, and you also kind of touched on it a little bit here today, earned media has such a greater reach and is more trustworthy, has more of an impact than paid media spend. And you guys have really turned up your effort to get the PR coverage for your destination, including travel writers and the hosting that you've done for journalists and things like that to get them to Beaufort. Tell me a little bit about how you created your strategy that led you to really focus on PR and some of the, publications that you found yourself in as a result.
Well, that's great. We wanted to focus specifically on travel writers and travel publications that had audiences that kind of fit our demographics. So we needed to know, those behaviors that they were looking for. And then after that, we were just willing to say yes to people's inquiry about coming to the area to write about us, write about story ideas. And in doing so, we were able to capture some audiences that we have never had access to. So I'll tell you a great story. This is one of my favorite stories that we tell about this. We were asked to host a travel writer and did the fill out, and they were coming to write an article about a new historic inn on the coast of South Carolina. And it was for a different publication. They had such a great time, they extended their stay here, canceled another portion of their trip, and after that, had a story pitch in which Beaufort, South Carolina became one of the top 52 places to visit by the New York Times. Our load of booking inquiries and requests for information out of the New York market was amazing. And that was just one story, one brief 75-word clip that came out that we were, blessed to have, but we were also very proactive in seeking out those writers. We're willing to take an opportunity, a risk to have someone tell our story to their audience. Your audience, Adam, and other people's audience, their content, you generate content, writers generate content. Content is king. Why can't that content include Beaufort, South Carolina?
Right. And I just love that with New York, if you imagine a smaller destination like Beaufort, to tackle New York, you might be able to have a 1, 2, 3 week flight, and you might use up your entire budget trying to hit your audience there. You bring in a travel writer from the New York Times, they write a 75-word blurb about you guys, and your bookings from New York are off the charts. And that's the power,
that's right,
of
so,
PR for
we have a lot of my peers are nervous about what social influencers or social media folks do, or these travel writers who have, their audience, and whether or not they can quantify it or qualify it as a good reach. And for us, we're like, if their audience matches our strategy, why not? We can spend, $700. That's inexpensive compared to the, $15,000 ad buy I have to place in that market to introduce. And so it allows us to go to markets that we're not currently spending in. We're not currently spending in, certain markets for us, but this is a good way to introduce it. And it's a warmer audience. Adam, it's hard for people to know what Beaufort's about, and we're introducing it cold. But a writer comes in and they have a built-in audience, and they already have some built-in trust. Here's this professional writer who's telling this great story about this place they went to.
Yeah,
I need to check it out. And what we've seen over the last 3, 4, 5 years is our inquiries of people raising their hand and saying, hey, I'd like some information about Beaufort. That allows us to, to use the term to put people in the funnel. It allows us to introduce ourselves and kind of follow up and kind of, move it beyond the inspiration phase.
Yep.
And then be there when it's time to plan and assist all the way up until the execution phase. And that's truly what we are setting out to do, but that's why PR is so important to us. It is a major part of our marketing strategy.
Well, and I've probably beat this drum too many times on the show, but once you've got that inquiry, once somebody has requested information, what they've just given you is permission to continue to send them content until they convert into a visitor and even after. But without that permission, without that inquiry, you're just kind of shooting in the dark. But once they've made that inquiry, it's just so critical. Like you mentioned, they're in your funnel, right?
That's right.
And you have the ability, the power to help nurture them through until they become a visitor.
Like I always tell folks, I'm just an old CPAP salesman, and I know it sounds terrible, but I'm not going to sell CPAPs to a perfectly, healthy person that sleeps perfectly fine. That's not how that works. So why would I put a destination in front of someone who has no interest whatsoever in being in and around the outdoor activities that come with coming to the low country of South Carolina, the history and the heritage? We have some great stories.
Right.
But if it's not a fit for everybody, I don't want to waste my time in targeting, them, and I don't want to waste their time. And we're inundated with so much advertising, we're kind of oblivious, right? That's what we keep telling ourselves. Yet there's something about, people sharing stories, sharing their favorite trips, sharing their good times. That's still content. And we're trying to build a army of ambassadors for the Low Country here in Beaufort, South Carolina. People just want to talk about it. And you know what? We did part of the research we were talking about. We found some interesting things that came out. But one thing that we found interesting is that while 51 to 55% of the people that come to Beaufort are first-time visitors, we have over a quarter of our visitors that have been 5 or more times.
Wow.
And I know it sounds, you look at that number, and it's like, we're not even spending money on those people anymore. Like, those people are our best. That's our word of mouth marketing right there. That's our ambassador group. They're the ones who come to town, and they don't necessarily worry about placing their place to stay. They may own property. They may have a second home here. Or if they don't, they have their favorite place to stay. They have a standing reservation. They bring friends. They tell their favorite places to go eat, favorite places to shop. If you want to see a magical time, here's where you go volunteer at the Sea Turtle Patrol at Hunting Island. This is in those type activities, they're doing the lift for the destination. And so the more people we can put through the funnel as first-time visitors and kind of make their experiences, meet their expectations along that funnel, then we have a visitor and an ambassador for life. And that's where I think Beaufort separates itself from, say, the Savannah, the Charlestons, and Hilton Head, is that the people that end up being that 5 or more visitor, and they're just as good as the neighbors that I have now. They're great. They keep coming back, and they're going to eventually be neighbors.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's kind of what it's about. The job of the DMO here in Beaufort is not to bring in millions upon millions of visitors. That's not necessarily our role. Our role is to make sure that the tourism economy is at a level that helps offset the quality of life endeavors that this area has, is to enhance the ability to have great dining and pristine beaches, is to be able to find enough volunteers to work the Sea Turtle Patrol. It's to be able to provide for an environment that allows us to close off our downtown so that our children can go and trick-or-treat in the storefronts like they used to early on. And it's just a recall. And to me, that's the benefit of this destination as a whole. Yeah. And so that's not something an ad might be able to tell. That's something that someone from the PR world, the travel writer, the writers are going to have to articulate that in their words and tell that story. And there's no better compensation to see that than reading that in a travel article about this great location in South Carolina along the coast that you may or may not have heard of. That after reading the article, your interest is piqued so much that you start inquiring, you start seeing that the images that you read about are now appearing before your eyes. And then your next inquiry, you start looking, you're like, man, these people, this is a place I want to go. And then you dive in, you find that when you get there, the culture is just as friendly as you read about. They don't know if you're a local or if you're a tourist. They don't really care. They just want to make sure you have a good day. And that's Beaufort, South Carolina. And so for us, it's a mixture of using great ad placement, but it's also very important for us to have our story told for us.
Yeah.
And travel writers and social influencers and bloggers and whomever help us get that message out there. And that has been a great part of our strategy.
Yeah. Rob, we had Bill Geist on a few weeks ago, and he said tourism is the first step really in economic development, because if you do a good job with the customer experience, next thing you know, they want to move there and be there forever, right? And so it's not just showcasing the destination one time, but it's actually making the destination experience so amazing that people could see themselves being there, not just visiting, right?
That's right. And that's exactly our role. And it's changing. I mean, even for me, I've been in the industry for about 16 years now. And when I first started, it was more event centric and ad buying and marketing, and that was our role. And now it is, how do we collaborate more within our community? How do we have a seat at the table to make those strategic decisions to,
Yeah.
keep the authenticity of our town and of our destination so that we don't lose that? Because if we lose that, then we're most likely going to lose the ability to retain so many of our visitors year after year for whatever reason.
Right.
And so we don't want to lose that in the process. And so we have to be at the table to make sure that we're coordinating, those efforts and being able to promote the destination in a way that both the local and the visitor find inviting and warm.
Well, I love all of this. I kind of want to shift gears a little bit. And the reason is I think we would be crazy not to talk about your creative campaign for your advertising that you're running. You and I looked at it together on our previous call, and I feel like you have one of the more unique visual campaigns of any destination that I've seen. And we're going to post this creative in the Destination Marketers LinkedIn group if anybody wants to see it. But what I love about it is that you've taken your attractions and you've humanized them. And what I mean by that, and you'd have to see the ads to kind of get this visual, but you see a person having a happy emotion, and within the silhouette of that person, you're actually seeing the attraction. So you can see their face, but then there's kind of a juxtaposed picture within the silhouette of their body. It is one of the most unique uses of imagery that I've seen in the industry. And I wanted to hear a little bit about how you guys came up with that and what you've seen as a result of this creative campaign.
Well, we're in love with the campaign. And we found that a lot of our people who see the campaign, both from a stakeholder group, the locals, and those visitors alike, they are in love with the campaign. And it's because it really is what Beaufort's about in so many ways. The Intercoastal campaign, and that's INNER, Intercoastal, reflects just on that. People get locked in their, run-of-the-mill, mundane life, the everyday life, right? And they dream of different activities, and they picture themselves somewhere other than at work, or fixing dinner or whatever it is, and they see themselves along the coast. And so the ads take on those looks, and they reflect the natural beauty of Beaufort, Port Royal, and the Sea Islands within the person, our target, the people who come here. And so that's who we're attracting, and that's who we're wanting the campaign to go behind. So this Intercoastal campaign is built on the things that make us unique, but also give us our beautiful landscape, if you will, and put in place for people to see and how they can apply it, what they can expect. I love the campaign. Of course, I hope so. But at the same time, we've seen a great return since the campaign started. Our inquiries go up, our recognition is going up. But at the same time, just people coming up saying, you know what, I saw Hunting Island Lighthouse on the billboard, and that looked like my daughter. I just laughed, and they wanted to know if it was a local that we used for the shot. In some cases it is, in some cases it's not. But the scene that they're seeing is very much local. Depending on who it is. I mean, we have different campaigns that we use, and it can fit any message that we're doing. So we articulate that in the arts and culture, or history and heritage and culture, and outdoor activity. It kind of fits.
It's hard in an audio-based podcast to do it justice. I feel like if you're listening here and you want to see a really unique take on design for a destination, I would say go check it out in the Destination Marketers LinkedIn group. If you're not part of that group, just search Destination Marketers in the group section of LinkedIn, and we'll post this creative for you. But I got to commend you, Robb. I see a lot of tourism campaigns out there. I see a lot of design, and there's so many designs out there right now that it's like, change out the logo, change out the colors, and guess what? You just got a different destination, right? Because so many destinations have similar attractions. And I feel like your design that you've come up with for this campaign really stands out from the crowd and cuts through the clutter. So I want to commend you on that. It's hard for us to go too deep on what it is because this is audio based, But I would encourage everybody to go check it out on the Destination Marketers LinkedIn group. Well, Robb, this has been really insightful, and I really appreciate your time coming on and sharing some of your knowledge and experience and telling us a little bit about Beaufort. Is there anything I haven't asked you that you feel like would benefit our audience to hear?
No, I appreciate the time and coming on here. I could sit and talk about what I do for a living, just because it's not, how it is. You find your passion and you'll do it forever. This is a tremendous career, and I love talking about my destination. So this is a great outlet to do both. And so I appreciate you having us on and being a part of it. If you haven't been to this part of the country, I would invite any listener that would come in there. This is a part of the country that is still hold true. You mentioned it earlier about the shells on the beach. The one thing you did miss is it's one of the last undeveloped beaches in America. There's nothing there but woods and a lighthouse.
Yes.
And to me, that is part of the area that I think people would be envious of, but at the same time would say, you know what, well done, folks. Well done, South Carolina. Well done, Beaufort, in preserving such a natural, beautiful landscape. And that's really what we are about, from our ad campaign to our PR campaign to our intercoastal deliverables. We want to celebrate our pristine area. I said that several times already, but our ecosystem here is so dependent on the water naturally.
Right.
And so we want to make sure that we're protecting that and having people understand it. And so undeveloped beaches become a part of that.
Oh, just for anybody listening, now I'm going to turn into like an ambassador for your destination here, but we saw 2 other families on that beach the entire time we were there. And that's it. I mean, it was hard to find somebody to take a picture for us, And maybe what I'll do is I'll post some pictures of our trip to that beach as well in the LinkedIn group so that people can see that, because you just can't do it justice. It was amazing.
Yeah, we get that a lot, and we're very fortunate to have that piece of real estate sitting in our backyard to promote, because it's easy to sell beautiful things like that.
Great. Well, Robb, thanks for your time today. I sure appreciate you coming on and telling us a little bit about your destination and your experience.
Thank you, Adam.
All right, everybody, this has been another episode of the Destination Marketing Podcast. Reminder, if you haven't joined the Destination Marketers LinkedIn group, you're going to be missing out on all this good stuff that we talked about today. Other than that, just let it sink in. Think Beaufort. Go check out their website, their destination. I know I was just sitting here the whole time thinking, how am I going to get my family out there this year when we've got a lot of things to do, a busy year ahead, but it sounds like just a wonderful place. And after my time there, it's somewhere I definitely want to get back to. So thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next week.